Keli was a driver of this regional integration. Every time he used to talk about how we need to bring to have borderless East Africa. Every time he used to say EABC and private sector needs to be the driver of regional integration. And those were his words. And I still remember, everyone remembers in the office, he kept making reference to the treaty establishing the East African community, and indeed saying that we need to live to the spirit of the treaty. So Keli was close to the office. He was close to each one of us at a very personal level. And I want to encourage the family, particularly the sons, to feel very close to all of us. And wherever you are, please feel very free to get in touch with some of us at very personal level in case of a situation or an issue that you want to make reference to. Keli was a great man, and as he has left, I know he has left physically, but spiritually he's watching what we are doing. And I'm sure wherever he is, he's smiling that we are convening this evening to celebrate his life, having made a significant contribution to East African Business Council and to the community. And therefore, on behalf of my colleagues at the Secretariat, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter, for those heartfelt remarks. Thank you so much. In a special way, moving on, I welcome Chairman Nick Nesbitt. If you can hear us, please proceed.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. And let me just pass my condolences to the family and all the friends of Keli Kiilu. And I do that on behalf of the board and the entire secretariat. And if I'm so bold to do it on behalf of the private sector in East Africa, I was actually hoping that I'd get to speak after my good friend Dennis Carrera, but has he come back or not come on yet?
I am here. If
Dennis
you
on?
This is Dr. Manu Chandaria.
Yes, Dr. Manu Chandaria, welcome so much. Welcome again this evening. We can hear from you. You can also proceed, Dr. Manu Chandaria. Thank you.
And before Manu speaks, is Dennis Carrera on?
No, we don't have Dennis Carrera yet.
Okay.
We don't have
him
yet.
Yeah, we are still waiting. In case he comes, we'll let you know.
Yes.
Okay.
I am Maggie. I am here. Have you noticed?
Well, why don't Maggie? We hadn't seen you, so why don't you go first, Maggie, and then Manu, and hopefully Dennis will come before that. So if anybody's in touch with Dennis, he might be in the wrong time zone.
Okay.
Maybe somebody can find him.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Kindly proceed.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Dennis Carrera is connecting. He's online connecting. You can be patient with him.
Okay, maybe Maggie goes first, and then Dennis can join after Maggie, and then Manu, and then I will speak.
Okay, please, Maggie, proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank Peter and EABC Chairman Nick and all of you for organizing this, for us to celebrate the life of a man who was so good. Yes, he loved Kenya. He loved Kenya very much. It was his home. But I think more than anyone else, he understood that Kenya alone cannot succeed. It needed its neighbors. So he really bought into the East African vision, the integration vision to Italy. He therefore gave all his time to make this happen. He also, more than anyone, understood that the private sector in the region needed to speak with one voice. There was no point having the Kenyans thinking Kenya, Uganda, all of us needed to have voice. So he was able to pull us together and make every effort to do. He worked, and then from there, EABC was. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Yes. So he worked with KEPSA. I first met him when he was with KEPSA. And later, of course, EABC came on board, where he rose. He rose to become, to have a permanent seat as a Goodwill Ambassador. I used to be with Uganda Manufacturers Association, and later with the Uganda Investment Authority, promoting investment into Uganda. But later on, we as well broadened our view and started promoting East Africa as a region. So I was really privileged to attend the launch of the East African Community on the 30th of November, 1999 in Tanzania. I was privileged again to be invited by EABC on a tour where we went and met the various presidents of East Africa, trying again to share Keli's vision of an integrated East Africa. We did meet President Kibaki, we did meet the president of Burundi, the president of Rwanda, and Uganda, of course, and Kenya. And we were doing this as East Africa. And Keli, of course, had to be a part of that. We also decided that as EABC, we needed to learn from ASEAN. What were the Asians doing? And we visited as a group, we visited Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, where we were learning how do they work together, the various countries, how do they do business? How do they work with the rest of the region? And also got an opportunity where I came in as the head of the CEO of the Uganda Investment Authority to talk about the opportunities in our own region for the Asians. And then people like Keli and the business people talk about what opportunities for trade and what opportunities for our various companies. We have had, I see pictures there that are so relevant to what I'm saying. These are pictures of the very meetings we were having. We did have East African community meetings in the various countries, capacity building, be it, we learned to work together, negotiating, advocating for, the integrated East Africa that we all wanted to see. I will touch on this then because it is still the case at the moment that most members were men. They were men, and but at that time we did have the president of the chamber from Burundi. She was actually at one point the chair of the EABC. We did also have the chair of the Chamber of Commerce of Uganda, Olive Chigongo, and I often traveled with them as the head of the Uganda Investment Authority. Susan Kwikwai sometimes. So we were limited. The number of women at the EABC was limited. But for this one, I really want to thank Ambassador Kiilu. He made us feel at home. He was so friendly. He supported all our various investment conferences in the various countries. And we again took up advocacy towards the bigger African continental free trade. So to Ambassador Keli Kiilu of the EABC, we have to say that you are so much a part of it. We shall definitely miss your smile, that incredible smile and friendly nature towards achieving one East Africa. That was a dream. We celebrate you and what you achieved for us on behalf of all of us as a region. We do promise to continue working towards an integrated EAC and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. I want to thank Nick and Peter, EABC as a whole, for really organizing this. COVID did not allow us to travel to attend the funerals with all this distancing that we're having at the moment. So we are truly grateful that you have given us this opportunity. We are not going to cry today. We are celebrating the life of a man who was a friend to all of us. Rest in peace.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Nick, before I let you in, I can see Manu Chandaria is in. Kindly, I want to give you this chance.
Dennis Carrera. Carrera is online.
Dennis Carrera, you're online. Thank you, Dennis. I was saying that we are aware that the last official assignment, Dennis, if you can hear me, before Keli fell sick, he was representing EAC at Kigali Heights, and that is why we felt you was important, and we gave you this privilege to give your tribute. Kindly, Dennis, proceed. Kindly, Mr. Dennis. Dennis, if you could unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Kindly proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comrades, Mr. Chairman and the team, apologies, first of all, I had technical delays in my system here. But I'm glad that I'm able to join you to say a few words about our departed colleague. Let me, first of all, allow me, Mr. Chairman, to read a statement. As Kigali chapter, we have prepared a formal statement. If time allows, I'll go through it quickly. And then, if there are any other comments, I'll make them later. And this is a statement of the Vice Chairperson of Kigali chapter, East African Business Council, on EABC memorial honoring of the life of Ambassador Keli Kiilu. Are we together with everyone?
Yes, we are, Chairman. We are.
Thank you. EABC Rwanda chapter Kigali, 8th of July 2020. The East African Business Council members in Rwanda and elsewhere in East African community learned with shock and grief over the passing of Mr. Keli Kiilu, a long-serving member of the East African Business Council, a key chairperson, a key champion of the integration process, and an East African with true values of one people, one destiny. Ambassador Keli fell sick fell sick to a daunting stroke in Kigali, attending a board meeting. This was a time when I was personally the host of the meeting in Kigali. We rushed Ambassador Keli to King Faisal Hospital, where he was admitted for 2 weeks. We took care of him the best that we could in the spirit of EABC fraternity and in the absence of his family. 2 weeks later, we made arrangements for his evacuation to Nairobi. This was done successfully, and we took this opportunity. I take this opportunity to thank the doctors at King Faisal Hospital who did their best in the entire process. Ambassador Keli was a hard-working man, and due to his tireless work in EABC, we gave him a title of ambassador. It is against this background that EABC appointed him as an ex-official director in EABC. I'm sure you all recall that though he was not a voting member, he was an ex-official member of the board. Looking back to the life of Ambassador Keli, he will always be remembered on very many integration achievements, but more especially when he provided valuable input in the establishment of the community, particularly as a private sector representative in the negotiations for the EAC Customs Union and Common Market Protocols. We shall always remember his support in the private sector development, especially when he mobilized support for the micro, small, and medium enterprises program, particularly the current EAC Juakali Nguvukazi exhibitions. The late Keli was instrumental in supporting the annual exhibitions from its inception and continued to support it for a number of years while working hand in hand with EABC directors and members. Today, Juakali Nguvukazi exhibition, now known as EAC SMEs Trade Fair, celebrated its 20th anniversary in December last year, an event that coincided with the EAC's 20th anniversary. As a director at the EABC, the late Keli worked as a team member to promote and strengthen the EABC as the umbrella body of the private sector organizations in East Africa. He was a committed integrationist who helped mobilize the private sector to participate in regional programs on trade, manufacturing, and investment. EABC, therefore, has lost a key pillar of integration. At the personal level, Mr. Chairman, allow me to sadly say this. At the personal level, I'm saddened, particularly because Keli had the last night at my hotel. I drove with him in my car. He sat next to me in my boardroom, and he uttered his last sentence in life to me, saying, "Let's continue." He felt uneasy as he felt sick. He felt uneasy. He drew back on his chair, but he wanted the meeting to continue. This important sentence he left with us, to me, is extremely critical. It is a message we should live with forever as EABC. It should inspire us as we remember Keli and to take his vision further. Let's continue. Goodbye, my friend Keli. We, as private sector and EABC members in Rwanda and other partner states, we believe he did an excellent job in driving forward the integration process. The passing of Ambassador Keli is a loss, not just to the people in Kenya, but to the entire private sector fraternity in EAC. He will be remembered fondly by all of us who got the opportunity to know him, interact with him, and work with him. Our condolences go to the family during this time of healing, of feeling his absence in the family. We also condole with EABC, our fraternity, and our brothers and sisters in Kenya for the untimely loss. May the Almighty rest Keli Kiilu in eternal peace. Mr. Chairman, I thank you. The only comments I can add were that not many had the chance to speak to Keli. I spoke to him, and indeed, as he got weaker in the meeting, he was fixated looking at me, and I asked him how he was feeling, and he told me we can continue. I thought his sugar had gone down. I offered him coffee quickly, but I could see something is happening to him. But he told himself that the meeting should continue. So his last words, I think, in life that I ever heard of, or rather I heard, were the words, "Let's continue." And I'd like to inspire brothers, I'd like us to be inspired by his statement. As EABC, as a region, let us continue. May Keli's soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for those heartfelt remarks. Next, we go to the founding chair, Dr. Manu Chandaria. Kindly proceed. Dr. Manu Chandaria, if you can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Doctor, I can hear you now. Can
hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the East African community to hold this meeting. East African Business Council to hold the meeting for paying respect to a man who has been very much synonymous with the name East African Business Council. I think that I met Kiilu many, many years back. I've met two people. One was Mr. Gichaga, was then the managing director of BAT, and he was his PR. And both of them in a similar type of clothing. And I was very surprised. And I thought that once after meeting him, that we must look a person like him into all aspects that we are doing. So at that time, I was the chairman of KM. So I brought him into KM to participate, and finally into East African Business Council. Keli as a person was a statesman. He could go and negotiate a deal with anybody that you want to. I thought that I had doors to many keys, keys to many doors, but Keli equally could open any doors that he wanted to. He was very smooth, very, very polite, and very few words, but he would explain and win the people. I think the loss of Keli for the East African Business Council and the businesses of East Africa is a great loss. But as we say, I'd seen him during his sickness. I saw him when he came out of his sickness. I saw him a number of times after that. So may I suggest that all I can say that may his soul rest in eternal peace. And I think as East African community and as East Africa, we've lost a tremendous, capable person, a statesman who could open up the doors wherever he went. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you because I brought him to the East African community. And so I remember how I did it, and not only that community, but then to KEPSA. So everywhere there was a business association, I decided to make very sure that Keli is around. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Over to you now, Chairman Nick Nesbitt.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just repeat again that I wish to send my condolences to the whole family of Ambassador Keli Kiilu on behalf of the East African Business Council. And so to fellow directors and Chairman Manu Chandaria and everybody else who's present, I'd like to say good evening as well. So I want to thank the speakers already, Dr. Mathuki, Dennis, Maggie, Dr. Chandaria, for your very consoling and insightful comments about Ambassador Keli. I am struck by the words, Dennis, that you gave around let's continue. In life, we keep running into obstacles, and it's always so tempting to turn around and go the other way and look for people to console with us about just how high the obstacle is. But for those who know what I'm talking about, when you adopt the Keli Kiilu mantra of let's continue and you climb that hurdle, the relief and the reward you get from the success of having climbed that hurdle is tremendous. And if you do it enough, it tempts you to go and climb even more doors. And as Dr. Chandaria was saying, for many of us, sometimes that challenge is opening a door. And for Keli, he had his way of opening many doors, as we all know. And as I reflect on him and I think about how Keli came into my life, I'm not even sure how and when it happened. I started to be a lot more around KEPSA all of a sudden. I'm not sure how that happened, but I think Dr. Manu had some influence on that, as he did for everybody else. But Keli just kind of appeared, and suddenly Keli was there. and he was everywhere until he was no longer there. And I think of some words that describe him. And I think the first one that comes to mind, which helped him to open all the doors, was he was very respectful. He was respectful of everybody, no matter what level that person was. I saw him interact with generally the ladies or the young people that would be at the desk, welcoming people to an event and giving them badges. And then I would see how he would engage with President Kibaki when he walked in. It was always respectful, which then led him to be respected. And he was respected by everybody from the ones I mentioned to all the others I have not mentioned. And I think the third word that comes to mind there was just this one about opening doors. He was very resourceful. I remember us being stuck. What are we going to do with many challenges? Well, where are we going to put some people who need an office? He said, that's fine. You can put them in my office. How are we going to have this meeting? That's fine. I'll call somebody and we'll have a meeting. So he was very resourceful. So he was respectful. He was respected. He was resourceful. When I think of other words that described him, I think of another one, that's integrity, how he did what he said. And even though he was a man of few words, as Dennis and Manu were implying, he was a man of big actions. And unfortunately for most people, many of whom even have the ambassador title, but others have even bigger titles, they're people of many words and very little action. And fortunately for him, he was opposite. And integrity is actually about doing what you say you're going to do. And if you don't do it, then you apologize about it. And when we had challenges, I remember some of the early days of me being involved with KEPSA and then EABC and not even really sure what I was doing. But I would sit in some of these big conferences in Kampala and Rwanda and listen to everybody talking about article this and article that. And Keli would just pull me aside and explain what it meant. So he was very intelligent. And he always seemed to look out for me and find me when we were at some of these big events where I did not know as many people as he did. And he would look after me and take me and introduce me to people in very complimentary ways and describe whatever the problem is that he's trying to solve with this person, or describe the opportunity to this person, which invariably got them to agree to his point of view. So I'd say he was inspiring, and inspiring enough, and perhaps another word, persistent. He was persistent enough to convince me to join EABC. And I remember there was a meeting in Nairobi at the Grand Regency, and I think it was some KEPSA meeting perhaps. And he took me from that meeting and said, "Oh, there's another meeting you have to come and see, and it's EABC," and took me across this little bridge to the conference, and that's where the EABC meeting was being held. Sat me right at the front, told everybody this is an important person. And when I tried to leave, made sure I didn't, and then was very persistent to ensure that I joined and became part of EABC. But while he was doing all of this, the other word that comes to mind was personable. So he was very personable in what he did. He just glided up to you, began to talk to you. He would grab your hand, walk you to another person or to get some coffee, or proverbially guide you when you're presenting or talking towards a particular point of view. And he did it in a very personal and personable manner. And you never felt like you had to get away from him or he rubbed you the wrong way. And so when the team, as Dennis just referred to, appointed him the honorary ambassador and the lifelong ambassador for the EABC, I think that was perfect. I think it was a perfect title for him, and he was perfect at it, because even as Maggie was saying, he had the EABC at heart, and everything anybody ever thought about was about the EABC, including when President Uhuru Kenyatta gave his condolences, he recognized and appreciated Keli for his work as being so integral to the growth and formation of EABC. And so EABC has gone through its challenging times. It comes out, it goes back in, but through it all, Ambassador Kiilu always had a very long-term view of it and a very optimistic view that we will get through this. It's very important. We have to get this done. And so in that respect, I would also say that Keli definitely was perfect at what he was doing and everything that he did as the ambassador. So those few words and those few descriptions of Keli, when I think of him and everything he meant to me and EABC and everything he did to push my candidacy and ensure I became chairman of EABC, I thank him because he's opened my eyes to the power of regional integration and the power of community and the power of multiple countries coming together and eliminating the whole political regime and getting politicians out of the way while we formulate our vision for East Africa and for all the people who work for us and work with us and buy and sell to us. So let me just wish the family all the good wishes from EABC and let you know that whenever you think about him in the multiple ways that you know him, we as EABC family say goodbye to him with a lot of respect and a lot of thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nick. I now invite Mr. Waturi Matu of Timea for your remarks. Please proceed, sir. Mr. Waturi.
Okay, that's Madam Waturi.
Madam Waturi, sorry.
Thank you for that. I will speak on behalf of Trademark East Africa, that Aid for Trade organization that has supported EABC for many years. And for those many years that we have supported EABC, we have interacted with Keli very, very closely. I remember him very fondly as he was basically the guru for regional integration, and you had to go to Patton for orientation when you worked. I mean, when you moved into a regional integration kind of work. So he was very good at that. He understood the treaties, the protocols, and for us, not very old, not so young people, I think he was a good person to bounce on. To bring you up to speed on regional integration issues. I think my first interaction with Keli was actually outside of Trademark, and this is when I worked for the East African Tourism Platform. And quite often we would discuss trade in services and tourism, and he would be a good guide on how to go about specific challenges that we were facing in the travel and tourism industry at that particular time. When I think of some of the East African tourism platform's greatest achievements, for us to be able to lobby and achieve a single tourist visa for East Africa, though it's only functional in Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya, I think for us that was a very big win, and this really came from the support of working with the EABC and the board of the EABC. And also, as many of you are aware, if you're traveling in those countries that I've mentioned, you can actually use your national ID to do so. And those are some of the greatest achievements that came out of that. So for every regional integration meeting that I attended, Keli was most likely there. Quite often he would, bully me, but in a nice way. And when I joined Trademark, then he now began to hassle me properly for donor funds to support EABC. So he was very keen to see EABC as a stable organization and one that is adding value to the region. So he would hustle me for that. A number of you have mentioned about the Jua Kali expos around the region, and every time they were close, because we didn't have a specific budget line that was supporting that particular intervention. Every time those expos were closed, he would call me, and Kelly didn't care that appointments, when it came, our relationship was such that he didn't need to make an appointment to come to our offices. So you'd come to the office and hustle me for support to facilitate some of the board members to participate in those expos. And he would not leave with, no was never, it was not possible to say no to Kelly because he truly believed in what he was doing and the value that it was adding, and he gave very good justifications at any one given time. So for me, I have not only lost a person I considered a guru, a father in regional integration, but also a personal friend, somebody that I came to know at a personal level, somebody that we laughed with. I think we were very, very saddened by his sudden illness. And we kept track of the progress that he was making. So I think on behalf of Trademark East Africa, I would like to pass my message of condolences to the family and the friends of Kiilu, and to the entire captains of industry in the EAC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Waturi. And in a very special way, I recognize the presence of Ambassador Keli's family, represented by his own son. I invite Onesimus Kiilu to give his tribute. Karibu sana.
Hi, Brian. This is actually Melvin, the other son. So Onesimus will be doing the eulogy. So first of all, good morning or good evening to everybody. We appreciate very much from the family, the EABC setting this up. I hope I am audible at this point. It does mean a lot for for us to speak to the family. Speak to you guys and really just hear these different stories of it's kind of a different lens in which to look at my dad as somebody we already looked up to and we considered a great person, but to hear the different stories is just it's really touching and really just paints a picture. It continues to fill in the colors in the picture that is the life of Keli Kiilu. One of the things that really caught me throughout these conversations here was some of the remarks from Mr. Dennis Carrera, who had had been one of the last people he spoke to. And one of those words that he mentioned there, that phrase was, let's continue, let's push on with that meeting. It's one way in which I can say that was the life of my dad. That is how he was. He was resilient, regardless of the setbacks or regardless of whatever resistance you got. One thing he always taught us was continue pushing on. Be objective about what you're doing, and make sure you get the job done. So I thank you guys for putting this together. I've not been fortunate enough to meet most of you, but it is a great honor to just listen to the tributes and the different ways it impacted everybody here. I will hand it over to my brother Onesimus to go through the eulogy and give his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you can proceed, Onesimus.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here and being part of this. My name is Onesimus Kiilu Keli. I was my younger brother who said a few words to appreciate and eulogize give a tribute to my father. Sorry. I'm here with with our mother, Gloria Mudeo Kiilu, and I would say my brother was correct in what he said about my dad. He was very resilient, and he always, wanted us to do the best, be the best, and give our all, and be hard workers. I can say he's finally at rest. He fought a good battle the last 2 years, and I can say he's at peace and he's resting now. And he was a fighter even during the illness. He's very inspiring to me and my brother. And in fact, I was with him during his passing, and I would say it was a smooth passing. He did not suffer. And yes, I will now go on to his eulogy now. The introduction. David Keli Kiilu was born on 24th April 1955 in Sambweni Hospital, Mombasa. He was the son of the late Onesimus Kiilu Kivila and Beth Ngi Kiilu of Kiliungwi Village, Mboni West, Makueni County. Kiilu was the father of Onesimus Kiilu and Melvin Musila Keli of USA. He was brother to the late Mrs. Rose Mbinda and late Peter Kivila Kiilu, Obed Mutunga Kiilu, Charles Wambua Kiilu, Paul Muli Kiilu, Jane Kiilu, and Rahab Mbide Kiilu, who unfortunately were not able to attend the virtual memorial today. His education. Keli Kiilu went to Kitundu Primary School between 1963 and 1969, before proceeding to Nakuru Day Secondary School in 1970 to 1973. In 1974, he transferred to Carbonet High School, where he studied between 1974 and 1975. He proceeded to the School of Journalism at the University of Nairobi, where he studied journalism and mass communications. His career. Upon graduation, Kiilu joined the national broadcaster, then Voice of Kenya, VOK, today known as Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, KBC, in 1976. He worked as a television producer and director and presented various programs at the station. He was instrumental in the establishment of current affairs programs and restructuring of VOK's television news. He left VOK in 1983 to join BAT Kenya. Always looking to advance himself in life, Kiilu immersed himself in his role as a public affairs officer in East Africa's largest cigarette manufacturer, BAT Kenya. This marked the beginning of Kiilu's sterling career in the corporate world. He rose through the ranks to the head of corporate affairs, a position he held for many years. He made many lifelong friends at work and in social circles. It is at BAT Kenya that he honed his skills in public affairs and regulatory issues, rising to the position of corporate affairs director and an executive member of BAT Kenya's board of directors. Kiilu distinguished himself as a people's person and easily made friends both at work and in his social circles. Kiilu was a strong personality and a very resilient man. He was extremely optimistic about life as well as strict and very direct on many occasions. During his time at BAT, Kiilu got seriously ill with meningitis between 1999 and 2000. He was hospitalized, went to the ICU, but thankfully he got better and was later discharged. He was sent to recuperate at home, but several months later, it was clear all was not well. Kiilu was thereafter sent for further treatment overseas by his employer at BAT. Thankfully, weeks later, Kiilu was back to his former self. Those who interacted with him knew he was a fighter and a very determined man in everything he did. Keli Kiilu was an astute professional in public relations and corporate and regulatory affairs. He was a fellow of the Public Relations Society of Kenya. Those who knew him can confirm that he was very well networked and was great at developing friendships across all levels of society. He was a staunch advocate of free trade and the integration of the East Africa community, a role he played with excellence while at BAT Kenya. BAT Kenya, the Agricultural Society of Kenya, ASK, as chairman of trustees and life governors, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, CAM, and the East Africa Business Council, EABC. Keli was a visionary person who had a broad outlook and through appreciation of the big picture in terms of the social and economic situation of the country. This was due to his deep understanding of public policy, public administration, government, and trade issues. Kiilu was instrumental in the mainstreaming of the Jua Kali sector in government policy in Kenya and eventually in Uganda and Tanzania. He received recognition from the presidents and governments of Tanzania, Rwanda, and Uganda for his efforts in bringing the Jua Kali sector, small and micro enterprises, to the attention of policymakers as a source of employment for millions of people. In 2018, while on the trip to Kigali, Rwanda, on an East African Business Council mission, Kiilu was taken seriously ill while at the meeting. He was airlifted to Nairobi for urgent medical attention. He lived with the effects of the illness until he departed from us. May God rest his soul in peace. So that was his eulogy, and as you can see, he a man who touched many people in different ways, different levels of life, and we shall all miss him and be inspired by his career, his life, and we thank you so much for all the support you've given us, both through physical, moral, and financial contributions. I hope that wherever he is, we have done him proud in representing his life during this hard time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now go to country representatives, and I would like to start with Burundi. Mr. Petit Ndekumana, kindly proceed.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Kindly proceed.
Thank you. On this day that we pay tribute to our late Ambassador Keli Kiilu, I would like, as the others have done, I would like to thank, first of all, to the EABC team who wanted to organize this event. Mr. Keli was an extraordinary man and a man full of inspiration. Especially, I remember him to his commitment on and his attachment on our organization EABC and the whole entire East African community. I saw his love of people, his love for job well done, his humility, and his good way to bring people together. As Mr. Dennis said, the day he got the stroke, I was with him in Kigali. In the morning, we take the breakfast together. He was joking as usually, but at the end, when we were looking to finalize with our meeting, he got a stroke. We took him at the hospital. I was extremely shocked to see him how he got the stroke. But as team in EABC, we have been together with his family. And it's good to see people how to assist each other. We assist each other. So in short, I can say we lost a great man of great value, and we will remain etched in our memory, especially in at EABC. To honor him, we must keep it's with his heritage to develop our community. So for his family, we encourage them. So our condolences to the family, to the whole community and EABC team. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Petit. Thank you for your kind words. We now proceed to the next speaker, Chairman Vimasha from Kenya. Kindly welcome, Vimasha.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think a lot has been said about Keli Kiilu, but as we know him as David Keli Kiilu, he was a soul. I call it a soul because he's still around with us. His essence is still there. And I think the important thing that he brought to all of us, whether it was an institution, whether it was EABC, KAM, or whatever, or KEPSA, or whether it was in his personal life, one thing nobody can forget about him is his smile, everlasting smile. And that smile was always there, come what may. Whether he's in deep trouble or he's in deep issues around EAC and integration, because that's what his main worry was. He was always a person that would be smiling and saying, fine, there's a way out. And he had this can-do attitude. And I think this is something that we all need to celebrate his life with, to say he had a can-do attitude. And if we can emulate that, and I say it to the entire family, if we can all, family means not just a family, but also all of us are part of his family. I think the issue is, can we emulate that? Can we just make sure that we keep those steps going? Because as a soul, he is departed. He's now in another body. But overall, he's still looking at us and saying, did you follow my footsteps? And I think this is where I would just give encouragement to the family, to the children, and to the mom. I think a very important point here is he lived a life that was truly blessed. And I think that's quite crucial. So celebrating his life at this moment, we know we need to condole, but at the same time, I think he went like a tiger, like a lion, fighting and saying, yeah, I'll be there. And come what may, any situation, when you have to have issues around East Africa, around small scale, around Juakali, around businesses, and creating new institutions, EABC was helped by him in a big way, because when we were at a very low position, I think he helped a lot. So overall, he's done a lot for community, for people, for everyone across. And that's something we need to say gratitude for. I think on behalf of the entire Kenyan nation, I think everybody's expressed a lot of grief, but let's go and see, can we emulate him? Can we celebrate his life? Can we now follow in his footsteps and really, across East Africa, prove to him that, yes, what his dream was of integration and becoming one together. I think across East Africa, we can just make sure that we live with that spirit lives on. And I think that's what I would say. Our deepest condolences to everybody. But I think overall, let's say Keli Kiilu still lives on. And that spirit, I'd like to have the children following that same spirit wherever you are in your lives. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bimasha, for those encouraging words. Next, we go to Rwanda. As we know, Keli was a close and a personal friend to you. Director John Bosco, kindly proceed.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we often say that the hour of death cannot be forecast. When we say this, we imagine this hour would be in distant future. We never thought we would be thinking about Keli as a memory. Yes, it came a little soon. He did his best to prepare us for his passing. However, it still came as a shock and still feels a bit unreal. We all have different memories of Keli, but one thing they all have in common is the way he loved and lived for EABC. He has the most inspiring love for his family and EABC. Every time he shared EABC stories, his eyes would light up with the most amazing shine, a shine that could never be unnoticed. He had the most amazing courageous strength and tenacity that every single person who ever came into contact with him would feel while in his presence. He carried on gracefully because he knew he had to be strong for the people who were watching him. He was an ambassador, mentor, friend, and advisor to us. He had a way of making each one of us in the team feel like we're his favorite. We are so privileged to have worked with such an amazing, strong man who had such a deep care about his team members. Keli taught us strong values and the importance of working together tightly as a team, tolerance towards one another, generosity, and tolerance towards one another's weaknesses. We will always remember him as a leader, a fighter, a lover, a nurturer, and a very resilient man with strong ethics. Your courage, determination, and sense of humor is something we always carry with us and hope that we can display those same characteristics, especially in trying times. We wish everyone could be so lucky to work with someone like you once in their lifetime. We are so grateful for the brief time we are able to spend with you and believe that the angels are rejoicing because one of their own has joined them. Let me close with a quote from a known author. A great leader will deflect credit to his people, and a bad leader will look to take the credit. Keli was definitely in the former category. Even on his last message to our team, he said, working with us was his greatest joy outside of his family. He made broken look beautiful and strong look visible. He walked with the universe on his shoulders and made it look like a pair of wings. By so saying, we bid you farewell and good night to your physical body, as we know that you will forever be in spirit. Till we meet again, beautiful soul, rest in peace. John Bosco Sagala, Director of Infrastructure, Transport and Resource Mobilization, EABC Rwanda. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Thank you, John Bosco. We can say those are words straight from the heart. Next, we go to Uganda, EABC Director, Mr. Stewart. Kindly proceed.
Fellow mourners and the bereaved family for the late Ambassador Keli Kiilu, Stuart Jason Mwesigwa, my name is the director at EABC and director also at Roofings Group, the steel and plastics manufacturing organization based in Uganda, but also with branches in Kenya. We, as a Ugandan entity of the local chapter of EABC, we are very grieved and shocked when actually the news came in. Much as the bigger shock to myself as Stuart was the time when Keli collapsed as we were in the middle of a meeting in Kigali Heights. I will never forget that memory. I've never experienced it before. It is always coming back and back into my life. Fellow members, board of directors for the EABC, we need to keep emulating what Keli was actually trying to impart into us, especially for us who have not been so much experienced so far in being board members, directors, and senior managers of various corporate organizations. I think we really stand a lot to lose, but the picture has left behind to many of you. We will continue trying to ride on your back so that we can become better leaders, better mentors, and better people to encourage the community, the East African community spirit going forward. We feel there is a big gap, but we need to do a lot more in order to fill it up. Keli, I traveled once with him from Tanzania, Arusha, and actually our flight was cancelled. I spent a lot of time, and it was an early flight of 5 a.m., but we ended up leaving Arusha at 2. He was very knowledgeable. He had a lot of history. He had a lot of information about Africa, about East Africa, and so many other things, how business has been evolving. We will really stay to regret his departure, but as well, we need to thank the Lord for the time that he gave us to enjoy with Keli. He was a very resourceful person, very humorous, and we really feel with him wherever he's resting. We pray that he rests in peace. The Lord gives, and the Lord has taken away. We want to encourage all of ourselves to continue promoting the East African community spirit. I continue to say I'm sorry for the greater family of Ambassador Keli Kiilu, but most especially the business friends, the administrators. We will really have to keep in sorrow, but we have to be strong. May Keli Kiilu's soul rest in eternal peace. Amen.
Thank you so much for acknowledging how Keli was really resourceful. We thank you for that. And in your words, we keep strong and we pray that his soul rests in peace. Next, I would move to Tanzania. Do we have the presence of Dr. Nyatai? Dr. Nyatai Samuel, kindly.
Good afternoon, mourners.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, sorry, I joined a bit late. I was told a bit also late about giving something about our late departed friend. But we always, as Christians, thank God that he has done his part, and the God, as Stuart quoted one of the verses from the book of Job, God giveth, the God taketh away, and may his glory be praised. I worked with late Keli for about 3 or 4 years, but I had met him before. I had met him almost 15 years earlier. And when I found him at the EABC, I was just surprised. I said, yeah, you're still around. I said, yes, very much so. And as most of the people have remarked, this was a very cool, patient, persistent, and smart person. He was very resilient, and he's a person who would not take no for an answer, but in a much cool way. You know, you would never really feel offended, because the persistence and the patience that he had is just something that you could not really be too harsh on him. He was so patient, and he was very positive on all the things that were going to happen. I remember sometime in about 2016 or 17, we were in Nairobi waiting to go and see His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. And then we were told that I think he would not see us, he would be seen by somebody else, I think the Deputy President. And to make matters not so bright, we were told that he would not go to State House or the official thing, he would go to the resident. So some of us, some of the people said, why, this is useless. But he said, no, let's go and listen to him. And it turned out to be a very, very good meeting. And we thank him for, keeping the spirit, because otherwise that meeting was almost kind of dismissed by the majority of us. But he said it is going to be positive, and indeed it was. So that is the person who is very, 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 who was very, very positive, very persistent, and an ardent believer in the East African integration. So while we worked together during the time I was a board member of EABC, I even we also became a vice chairman for Tanzania chapter. Now, the last time I saw him was in Kigali after the board meeting that most people have mentioned in Kigali in early 2018. I did not attend that meeting, but I came a few days later, and at that time our friend had been hospitalized. So I went to see him at the ICU department in the King Faisal Hospital. All we could do is, we could recognize some people, but he was very weak. But I had time to talk to Sister Jenny Moikali. I think that was I hope she's with the family around there. Jenny Moikali, and we talked a lot about our friend and wishing him and praying for him. But of course, he suffered quite a lot during the almost 2 years of trying to struggle with life. But as we said, God had his own plans, and for us, we just take it positively. So all we can say really that we had a very strong person, we had a very smart worker, a believer in the East African integration, and he showed us, and especially the secretariat at that time, with all the challenges that the institution had, he showed them the way in his cool manner, and he had a way of connecting with people, and having been, and he knew how to work through the East African Community Secretariat. Not sometimes always an easy institution to work with the bureaucrats there, but he was always positive, and as a result, of course, he was able to achieve quite a lot. So all we can say really is that we keep praying for the family and encourage them to take it positively and move on. On behalf of my Tanzanian colleagues, and I'm not sure which other person will be speaking, whether our chairman would speak, because presently I'm not speaking as holding any top leadership position, but as an immediate past chairman of the Confederation of Tanzania Industries. We wish the family all the best and pray that they move on, and thank the family for joining this group. Thank you very much. I'm away from Dar es Salaam, that's why I'm not terribly coherent. I'm somewhere in the village in Mwanza, in Lake region. So very soon the network is not very good, but I thank you all for the opportunity to have been able to speak a few words. All the best, and we pray for that. Asante sana Chairman Nick, and the rest of the directors, Bosco and Matu Waturi. I heard you, and I agree with what you said. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Chairman Nyatai. It is for sure your history with Ambassador Keli do go a long way. Next, allow me invite Madam Agatha Nderito. We acknowledge that you worked closely with Ambassador Keli. Madam Agatha, kindly proceed.
Thank you very much, EABC, for organizing this meeting. And my first remarks are my deepest condolences to the family of Keli Kiilu, to EABC, to EAC, and also the whole of Africa. I think a lot has been said about Keli, so I will not repeat it. Perhaps 3 things I can say about Keli. I met him in March 2008, and I had actually just joined the EABC. I had not even been formally introduced to the rest of the team, but there was a meeting that was organized by the board in Zanzibar. And I remember after that meeting, and he was talking about how to make EABC more efficient, how to mobilize resources for EABC, but even more importantly, which was one of the things he carried to the very end, is how to ensure that private sector stops being a spectator. He loved using that term. The private sector is not a spectator, and we must partake in the integration process. And we wanted to meet with the then president of Tanzania, and I recall that it had been difficult to meet him. And I remember Keli saying, "What do you mean it's difficult to meet him? I know this man very well. You go to Zanzibar, you go to Dar es Salaam, and by the time we reach there from Zanzibar, we will already have a meeting." And sure enough, we had a meeting. But that talks really to Keli's fearlessness and his persistence. Like people have said, he did not understand the term no. He was very committed to the cause, and the cause was private sector. The other thing perhaps I recall most about Keli is when the board of directors promoted me, and I should add that I understand Keli was very instrumental in this promotion, but he had not even told me and he had not even asked me. And after the appointment, I remember him asking me, "You are surprised?" I told him, "Yes, I'm surprised." And he said, "It's because we know you and we have faith in you." And he said, he told me three things. He said, one of the reasons why he can open any doors and he can meet with everybody and talk with anybody he wants is because throughout his life, he has treated everybody with respect, tact, and decorum. And I remember thinking it's a long time since I had anybody use that word, decorum, that you have to treat everybody with respect, tact, and decorum. And I think that really sums up the way he treated everybody. He sat with the king and the cleaner, like it has been said, and each of them went feeling I was treated with the due respect. And I know it has been said in terms of all the organizations he supported. I think what hasn't really been talked about is just how much involved he was in the creation of the African Business Council. And even before the African Business Council, I recall in around 2010, he was one of the founding members of an organization called PAFTRAC. PAFTRAC stands for the Pan-African Private Sector Trade and Investment Committee. And in Tunis, I think in 2010, and its launch in 2011 in Ghana, it was only recently relaunched and recently being 2018. But even that long time ago, when we were not all excited about AFCFTA and what have you, Keli had seen so far and had tried to bring even the apex bodies, the EABCs, the Commercial Business Council, the SADC Business Council together. Then it was the SADC Employers Group. And I recall him telling them, you must organize yourselves in a manner that we are able to engage with government. And I am happy to say that his dream of an integrated Africa is coming true, and that EABC, I'm happy to see that EABC is playing a critical role in taking forward that dream. And I think one would need a whole year just to talk about Keli and the man he was. Just to say he's very missed. He was a friend to all. He was a mentor to me personally, and to the region. He was a champion of integration and a champion of the business community. We will miss him, and we know that he's in a happy place. And we pray that God rests his soul in eternal peace. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Madam Agatha, for highlighting some of those major accomplishments Ambassador Keli was involved in. Thank you so much for those words. We give an opportunity to one person who would wish to share his tributes, his or her tributes. We have at least 5 minutes or so. So anyone, just unmute your mic and proceed kindly.
Sorry, what's the message? What did you say?
Yeah, we're giving one slot to anyone who knew Ambassador Keli and would wish to express his or her tribute to proceed.
Okay, let me take this opportunity. My name is Alban Mwenda, and Keli Kiilu was a very, very close friend of mine, a very great friend. I first met him at BAT, where he was amongst the panel who interviewed for me to get recruited into BAT. And so we worked together when he was the head of corporate affairs and I was the head of human resources. at BAT. Keli, I must say, was a very, very wise person. Beyond being friendly, beyond having the influence to be able to open up doors, beyond the humility that he had, he was a very, very wise person. And even after I left BAT to go on into other organizations like KCB, where we had a lot of issues that needed, advice from people who've worked both in government and in the corporate world, I always used to lean back on Keli to give advice on how we would get papers through the board and that kind of thing. And he was always very willing to give that advice to me. And even thereafter, when I went to EABL, I continued being very close friends with him. He's a neighbor of mine here in Karen, in Nairobi. And we worked together also at the Agricultural Society of Kenya for many, many, many years, basically on a voluntary basis. And he really, was a friend and a mentor in many, many ways to myself. So on behalf of myself and my family, my kids know him, my wife knew him very well also. In fact, on the very day that he had a stroke in Kigali on February the 14th, 2018, I called him at around 6 because I thought he was around, and there's a small joint where we'd always meet at the end of the week to socialize. And he wasn't there, so I picked up the phone and called, and somebody else picked up his phone and said, well, he's just seems to have blacked out here, so we're trying to get him across to King Faisal. And the rest of the story is as has been told. But I think it's really a thing that we need to thank God for Keli's life, that we participated in his life and he participated in our lives fully. So thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to just say a few words about my dearest friend, Keli Kiilu. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words. Ambassador Keli was indeed a friend, he was indeed a mentor, and he was indeed a champion. I beg now as we close, we thank you from the EABC Secretariat. Thank you for sparing time for this. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your tribute. The family, I'm sure they do feel condoled by all of us, by your remarks. Thank you so much for this. And I would like, as we close, to invite Marian from Uganda to lead us with closing prayers. Thank you so much. Marian, if you can proceed. Marian from Uganda, if you can hear us with the closing prayers. Okay, in absence of Marian, I invite Immaculate from Kenya to give us closing prayers. Welcome, Immaculate.
Let us pray. We come before you, Creator of mankind. We thank you for the life of Ambassador Keli Kiilu, our father, our brother, our mentor, and our friend. We thank you for the years you gave him to serve the East African community, and especially the East African Business Council, where he made a great impact. And we are now enjoying the fruits of his hard work. We thank you for every memory that Ambassador made. We thank you for the rest in Christ he now enjoys. We thank you for giving him to us for a time, and we praise you for the glory we shall share together for eternity. We ask you to strengthen his family, comfort their hearts, and give them relief from distress. May the soul of Ambassador Keli Kiilu rest in eternal peace. Amen.
Thank you so
Amen.
much. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you. Amen.
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 Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good evening.
Bye-bye. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.